Hello and welcome to Cinematic Camera Pro. If you spend hours going through the Unreal Engine Cinematic countless menus tweaking dials just to get a decent cinematic shot, you've come to the right place. We built this tool because in our own projects we needed a camera we could fully rely on. A multifunctional rig capable of stunning fidelity and cinematic looks without complexity. The native Unreal Engine camera is powerful, but its complexity creates a massive workflow drag. Cinematic Camera Pro cuts through that, giving you an intuitive plug-and-play experience. We haven't stripped away the power, we've supercharged it. With just a handful of straightforward settings, you can achieve a finalized cinematic-grade composition that lets you do more and experience and experiment more with it. Now let's go ahead and show you how we can achieve that using Cinematic Camera Pro. All right, so first we are going to talk about our demo and our scene here. So first of all, we are working with the Infiltrator demo here. Um, this demo is basically, you can download it from Fab for free, and it's available right now. I downloaded it and converted to 5.6, which is my version, the version I'm working on. Second, you need to know how to install and basically get your Cinematic Camera Pro plugin. And to do that, you have to go to Fab, search for the Cinematic Camera Pro, and buy it, and then install it to your project. After that, you open your project, you go to Plugins, and you're going to find it under Camera, Installed Camera, and you're just going to check that box, and it's there. The second thing is how to actually place a camera actor here. First of all, the first way, which is going to be easy, which is place actor, you just press that button and search for Ecamm Pro, and you can just drag and drop it. But sometimes you're not going to find it here, and you're going to need to go to your content browser, and you're going to go to this icon and open the plugin content. And once you do that, you minimize the content folder and you open the plugin folder, and you're going to find our Cinematic Camera Pro. Sometimes you're going to find two of these because the C++ is enabled. So you pick the one with no C++ classes. And once you open it, you're going to open the other folder and find the Cinematic Camera Pro. So the first thing I did is actually create a scene that we're going to use to actually make sure that you can see the full capabilities of the Cinematic Camera Pro. It's the same scene that you just saw. Right, so let's just first try to create our first camera. We type eCamera Pro, or drag it here and drop it. Let's press G to actually view our camera. And as you can see, we can see our targets and everything. Now, the first thing I need is actually to dock this detail panel above, because we're going to need all the information to be clear here. So the first thing we do is actually we want to establish first how Camera Pro actually functions. So Camera Pro is actually dependent on targets. Now, we have two types of targets. We have camera target and follow targets. For our purposes right now, we're going to focus on camera targets. So the first thing we need is actually to learn how to use camera targets. So let's just try to add one. Now, this is the structure of the camera target. Let me just scale it up for you. Now, first we have the source actor, which is basically the character or the object that this camera is going to be looking at. So let's just start by capturing our protagonist here, which is named New Blueprint. Okay, as you can see right now, we have target weights, which we're going to talk about later. But our main thing is component name and bone name. So first of all, if this is an actor of that has a skeleton mesh, then it's really functional and best case to use the component name and the bone name that we want the camera to focus on. This gives us more control over our cameras. So let's just first test how it looks without that. So first of all, when the character moves, you can see that the camera is stationary, it's not moving, it's not doing anything. So why is that? Let's just go first with the tracking. Now it has a checkbox enable orbit. Let's check that. And what you're going to see here is something that I wanted to demonstrate early on, which is basically a problem with some actors and some animations. Basically, as this center of the actor is here, it's not actually there. So that's why the camera doesn't know where to look. And this is a problem that is going to happen a lot. So you're going to have to actually make sure that the camera is looking at the component you want it to look at. At this point, the component that we want to look at is called skeletal mesh. So we're going to go into the camera targets, and we're going to write here skeletal mesh. Now, as you can see right away, the camera is looking right now at our character, and it's actually rotating. Now, as you can see, our camera has a lot of weight into it, and this is built right into the camera, but it can be configured through the dampening options that you're going to find into the tracking. These dampening options make the camera heavier. Basically, the camera is going to rotate slower towards the target, or it's going to rotate very fast. So if we actually make the dampening here 0, 0, 0, the camera is going to be very fast to pick up on the movement of the character. And as you can see right now, it's not letting the character go anywhere. And right away, with just the simple animation, we can see that we already have a very good shot, right? Uh, just with these small uh, adjustments, we already have a good shot. But let's make it better. Okay, so to do that, I want to go and actually track the character's head. And I know the character's head bone name, which is head, but for you, that case might be different, so you better check your skeleton for the correct bone name. And now the camera is focused on the character's head, but I want the camera to zoom in a little bit. And regularly and normally we would use the FOV focal length values of the Unreal Engine, but I'm going to opt in for our own solution, which is dynamic FOV here. And the dynamic FOV, as you can see right away, has a problem with the focal length, which is why we always use that in tandem with enable autofocus, which is going to get us a better focus. And as you can see right away, the camera is zoomed in on the character, but we can actually increase that so that it's zoomed in more. And if I try to look at it right now, you can see that we get this very cool effect where the camera is trying to run after the character, and it looks really cool. But, I want to frame it better. I want to frame it more cinematically. So let's just use the rule thirds here and make the character to the right side of the camera. And we can do that at any time, actually, using the physical camera settings. And we can go here to the screen position offset, and we can just adjust the values here to get our character in the right position. And whenever you actually look at this, you're going to actually find that the character is going to always stick to that part of the camera. Obviously, we have a very dull dampening right now, so that's why the character is going to always stick to that part of the camera. But the depth of field is another problem because the depth of field also has a dampening value. So that's why you can actually look at the camera and the framing is not going to be really accurate at this point. So we can always adjust the composition using the sequencer by keyframing these parts, or we can actually make the dampening of the FOV very fast. We can also make the camera actually, in the beginning here, we can make the camera capture more than one character. And let's just frame the camera in a different way first. But now that I have this target, I can actually switch on multiple targets, and let me just go to targets here and add another target. And this time I'm going to select the other character. And as you can see right away, the camera already has both into the shot. Um, but it's not to my liking really, because I feel like let's just get our camera into the content browser, into the outliner. And I want to select this skeleton as well so that our framing is better. So I'm just gonna go write the skeleton name. It's called skeleton mesh component 0. And you know that by selecting that, and you just look at this value. Now back into our camera, I can select the head, for example. And this is a better framing, I guess. I'm just gonna go down a little bit. The camera is fighting, and this is because of the very low dampening. So I'm just gonna go add a little bit of dampening on the FOV and on the tracking. I can actually get that framing wherever I need, and the camera is gonna make it work. Okay, so I'll just look at that right now. You can see the camera maintained its position here, and it didn't actually ruin the composition. It's moving fast, and at the same time, the idea is the camera has to keep this character into the frame. So one way is actually to create another camera, which is easy. But let us add first this camera to our, our sequencer. I'm just going to add a camera track here and make sure this camera is here. So this the first cut basically. Now in the second cut, I want our camera to follow the character. What I'm going to do is actually jump out of this camera and add this camera here. Gonna rotate it like this. Perhaps I love the camera. Right. I like it. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the camera targets and I'm gonna select our target, which is this character. The movement. Now we like skeletal mesh. And we're gonna choose the bone to be the head. Now, if you want the your view to be better or not the head only, there is a couple of options. You can use the bounding box. There is ways to visualize this in Cinematic Camera Pro. Basically, you head over to debug and you go to bound per actor, per target. You can now choose this and you can resize it however you like, and you can see what it looks like. So, and you can actually do an offset. So you can raise it, you can bring it down. For example, here. Now, my camera in orbit is going to always focus on that. And if I do dynamic FOV, just going to make it like this. And I'm just going to make here. I can actually play with this. That this character is in position. Now I can also head back to the camera because I don't like the framing here. I'm just going to go um, to the side a little bit. You got raise this frame a little bit as well. Of course, there is a way to get better composition by going in and checking on debug, and you're gonna have you find this debug composition checkbox, which is going to give you a better look of a better composition results. We can, for example, place it here to the physical value. In a golden ratio format, this looks amazing. So of course, we don't want that framing for the run, so we're just going to reset our framing. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit so that I can have a better framing for it. Now that I'm actually settled on that camera, I'm going to go to the second option that we have, which is follow. Now, once I do that, the camera is going to go a little bit haywire, which is okay. We can go to the follow offsets and just reset that. And you're going to find the camera to be reset from the position that you set, which is a bummer, but we can find a solution for it. The way you do this is actually you take the camera and you move it till you find a better position. You can see the camera is a little bit, it doesn't actually zoom in, which is, I want a very close shot. So what I'm going to do is actually open the values a little bit so that I can see. Literally the bounding box is, height is too much. So I'm just going to resize the bounding box. Let's just see what the camera will do when the character is running. As you can see, the camera is running really good. And actually assume pilot this camera. I'm gonna actually close the debug, which is really cool. Now, let's just do a little bit of stuff here to make it look better. So I'm gonna go back here into composition. And I'm just gonna remove the composition overlay. I want to actually increase the dampening on the valley, which is gonna sound weird at first, because that means the character is gonna get closer to the camera. But yeah, that's what I wanted exactly. So give us the cool look. Also have this rotate around the character a little bit so we can use subject values and just give the camera a little bit of an angle here. That's a different look altogether. Then also have this 2D and 3D debug so that we can understand more of how the camera works. Base idea here is that these let you understand more about the situation, about where the camera is and where is it looking. Another use for this camera is actually tracking fast objects, and we're going to just demonstrate that through this sequencer, which is basically a very fast vehicle moving. So I'm just going to light things up a little bit so that it looks visually appealing, and at the same time you can see it. Now I'm going to add a camera. So I'm going to frame it, click on subject. Then I'm going to head over to our camera targets. And I'm selecting that object, and I'm going to go for tracking and following. Just gonna tracking. So with the following, I'm just gonna reposition it so I get a good result. I really don't like the side view, so go to have that. Oh, we go for movement. I'm going to go for focus as well. And as you can see, my timeline is going to run after the vehicle until there. Now let's switch that to subject space. We're going to get the camera to stick more into the position it is required to be. All right, so let's just make it a little bit more interesting. So what I want to do is actually for the camera to track this object while following this vehicle. So to do that, let's just go for the follow. And there is a checkbox called enable separate follow target. And once we check that, this follow targets becomes active, and now we can actually use it. So the way we do this is actually we head over to the follow target, and we want to follow this vehicle, but we want to keep track of this statue. And as you can see right now, the camera updates in real time and tries to follow this vehicle and at the same time track this statue. Now I want this vehicle to be a little bit into the perspective, so what I'm going to do is actually play with the offset a little bit. I'm going to try to keep it in perspective now. As you can see, the vehicle is trying, and it's still not leaving the frame. So obviously this can be broken because it's built on calculations that has minimum and maximum, but the value that you get with these kind of settings in a very few seconds is actually very nice. And you can always make it better by tweaking more these values. Also, you're just testing in a very few seconds what a scene would look like. So for example, one way to do that is actually that you get our camera here into the scene, and we can always play with the offset. So I'm just gonna get the offset here and just gonna play with it, raise it up. Yeah, another key. So you can see that the camera is raising from the level of the sequence of the car, and it's focusing on the statue. Of course, also this is the dampening is a part of the camera tracking the vehicle well, but it supports that it's not really tracking the statue. Also, we can do decrease this so that this statue is always in perspective. You can create this and more interesting options using Cinematic Camera Pro. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll be back with more tutorials.